Hello, welcome to Couchbase Coding with Matthew Groves. This is a 10-minute slice of my day as a developer advocate. Live every day. Check out old episodes on YouTube, email or tweet comments and questions. I'll be giving you a sneak preview of the upcoming Couchbase Connect in New York conference. That's what I've been doing all week this week. It's going to happen between May 9th and 10th, 2018. Jam-packed full of technical content from our engineers, but also our customers and our partners. I'll give you a coupon code at the end of the video today. So, as you may have noticed, the background is a little different from normal because I am traveling. I am at a conference, actually. It's called Into the Box Conference. They just had a mariachi band downstairs, and so they gave me this really neat hat. So that's why I'm starting the show a little bit late this time. Now, hopefully the internet Wi-Fi is working okay and you're getting the stream. If not, I will put the recorded version up later. Okay, so one of the sessions that's going to be at the conference, we're beyond the workshops now, we're talking about just the conference. It's a session called Getting Started with an Engagement Database, and I believe it's being presented by Munib. One of the things that session is going to cover is some data modeling, and you're going to see a couple sessions that involve data modeling at Couchbase Connect in New York. So I thought I would just give you a little sneak peek into some of the data modeling options you get with a JSON-based database like Couchbase, and some of the interesting things that Couchbase can bring to the table when it comes to modeling. Okay, so what I've got here, and I can't really see how much time I have left. Okay, but I'll go over here. So what I've got here is I've got two buckets here, one called Shopping Cart 1, one called Shopping Cart 2. I'm going to show you two different basic approaches you could take to modeling relations between data. I'm going to use a shopping cart as an example because it's somewhat of a familiar example. You know, you go to a website and you have a shopping cart that's associated with you, the user, the customer, and you put items in the shopping cart. All right. So let's start with shopping cart 1. Right now it's just an empty bucket. I'm going to put some samples in here. This is going to be an approach that's kind of familiar if you're used to like a normalized way of storing data, like a relational database. So let's start by creating a document. We'll call this cart and we'll give it ID 1. Okay, inside that document, I'm just going to copy and paste here to save me some typing and time. I'm going to have just 3 fields. One of them is going to be customer. This is my username, let's say, or it could be an ID or some identifying characteristic of the customer. I'm giving this a type, a field of cart. That's going to come in helpful when we go to query this later. And then I'm going to store the items in separate documents. So they're not going to be here in the document. They're going to be separated out. This is kind of like when you have two different tables in a foreign key relationship in relational. It's not exactly the same thing, but we're referring to two other documents. I haven't created them yet, item 1 and item 2. Okay, so there's our first document. Now I'll go and create a second document. I'll call this one item 1. And inside this, we're just going to have just the basics of the item. So the description of the item, a quantity, the price of the item. You can put other things in there as you imagine. But you can see that that's just an item. So I'll go ahead and add another item to this called item 2, just to prove this out a little more. It'll be a different item. This time it's a sprocket with a different quantity and different price. Okay, so right now I've got my data pretty well split up between documents. I've got a shopping cart document, it's sort of the aggregate root, and I've got 2 items that are related to that cart. And they're related because we have this array here that points to those items. Now this is sort of a like a one-to-many. We could have a reverse where the item in fact points to the shopping cart by referring to its document ID. Different approaches, but kind of the same sort of thing. Okay, so we've got these documents separated out. If we go to actually query the documents, let's just do select everything from shopping cart 1, where the type is cart. So we just want the cart items themselves. So I go ahead and do that. See, I get one result back, and it just has that item that I entered there. We don't get any information about the items. Now, if this were other document databases, this kind of operation would require a second step or a second and third step. We have to loop through this items collection here and go and fetch, okay, now go fetch item 1, now go fetch item 2, and then we get the complete picture. With Nickel in Couchbase, we can actually work with this model in the context of a SQL query. So we can select the customer, and we can actually do a join. This is a type of join that's JSON specific called a nest. We'll nest those items by joining them based on the document key of items. And we'll just alias them as I to begin with. We're going to alias them as items up here as the result. So if I execute this, you can see I've got one result now, but instead of the items being those keys to the other documents, I've now nested the document contents within the result of this query. So you can see I've got one result that contains two items. So this is one approach, by splitting up your data into different documents and then joining them together using Couchbase Nickel. Another approach, and I think this approach probably makes more sense in the context of a shopping cart, is we'll take a more denormalized approach. Now I'll go ahead and create cart 1 over here. Inside of that, I'm going to paste, just to save some typing, this document here. Let's just view this, save it and view the document in detail. So now I don't have the keys to other items. It's not foreign data anymore. Now it's domestic data, and I'm embedding the data within the shopping cart item itself. So now I've got just a single document instead of 3 documents split into pieces. Now what this means is that I don't even need to use Nickel to query this data. I can just go ahead and use the document key, cart1, to get this data. No joins necessary, no extra indexing, no queries. I'm just get object by key. And I think this makes sense in the case of a shopping cart, because you're not typically going to have items that a person is purchasing. They're not going to be used anywhere else but that shopping cart, right? You don't need to have any sort of splitting of the data up because it's just the shopping cart is one entity as a whole. It's the aggregate root, as I said before. So it makes sense to aggregate those all together in one document. Now, when would it not make sense to do that? Well, there's plenty of different ways that would make sense. If you have a large amount of data, or it's data that's being shared between multiple documents, if you're joining customers together to each other, relating a customer to another customer, it doesn't make sense to store that customer within the first customer. So keep those as separate documents. You're going to typically be reading and writing them separately. If you need to join them together in some situations, you can use that join syntax to do that. So we've got 2 different ways to model data. That's kind of the basic fundamental trade-off you have to think about when you're modeling data in a document database. With a relational database, you pretty much have to stick to 3rd normal form or 4th normal form. With a relational or with a document database, you can have some more flexibility in how you split that data up. So that's all the modeling basics I wanted to cover today. I want to show the Sorry, the sound wasn't working. Like I said, I'm at a new piece of hardware in a new location today, so I got to work out some of these bugs. But Connect New York coming up May 9th through 10th, 2018. Go and register now at that URL there at the bottom of your screen, and use the code DEVADVOCACYCC18 for free admission to the main conference. So make sure to check that out. You'll see some great technical content, including a deeper dive on the modeling stuff that I covered today. Thanks very much for watching.